What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Beck Check podcast. I have not made a podcast for a while. Some of my students even know the exact day and time the last time I posted a podcast, which is really funny. And I know a lot of them have been waiting for a new one. It's just been a really busy time. I just haven't really thought about this hobby of mine that I had started. It hasn't been a priority of mine. Last semester was the final semester of my master's program, and I was just really busy taking 3 classes. I was doing a research project. But before I kind of jump in, today's podcast is going to be all about some life updates that have been going on for me as far as the teaching realm. And then I'm just going to share some encouragement for teachers and just to take risks in your teaching and to give students hard problems. So, but before I get started, I just have to give a major shout out to Mr. Adam Scaffolding. He approached me today and was like, "Beck, your first podcast with Nomo was awesome. She was such a great interview, and there's just so many great ideas that I got from it." And he just really encouraged me to get back into the podcasting game because I know he wants to start one up, so maybe he and I can be on each other's podcast at some point. So, Adam, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for the encouragement today. It really meant a lot because I haven't podcasted in a while, and it's because of you that I decided to hop back on. So I really appreciate that. And then Nomo, if you're also listening to this, just know Scaffolding felt very encouraged by our conversation. So anyways, a little bit of life updates. So I just graduated from NAU with my master's in mathematics education. That was last semester. It was so much fun. Like, the whole program was really great. So if there's any math teachers out there who are looking to get their master's and pursue it online, really flexible. I swear they did not pay me to, put in a plug or a shout out for them because, well, I mean, I think I probably have 15 viewers on this whole thing. But if you're one of the 15, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. No knock. But anyways, the NAU program, Masters of Science in Mathematics Education, I got a ton out of the program. I was working on this research project last semester. I compared 2 different ways to grade. We looked at our traditional way to grade with your traditional, like 10% for assignments, 15% for quizzes, 20% for tests, yada, yada, yada. And I compared that grading system to the Building Thinking Classroom's version of standards-based grading. I'm going to have to make a whole different podcast and presentation on that sometime, but I learned a ton from that experience. But it kept me really busy. Also, last semester, it was really kind of a cool and unexpected thing. I had mentioned offhand to one of the instructional coaches at Mountain View. I was just like, hey, like, there's this teacher award that I always see, because I was just at a basketball game in the earlier this year, and I was like, man, it'd be really cool to get the U of A teacher award because I always see them honored at halftime and all this. And then before I know it, with the principal, they decided to nominate me for the award, and I'm a finalist, and it's pretty surreal. So I wanted to share that. There was a really cool opportunity that presented itself to me. I was really not expecting it at all. I thought it might be something years and years and years from now after I had done more, but it was just cool to be recognized. And I think the coolest part about it was that they came in and surprised me in my classroom in one of my class periods. And the students were just so excited for me. And they got so excited that they ended up designing a t-shirt. So I have this funny thing where on Wednesdays I say, on Wednesdays we wear pink. And because, from Mean Girls, it's just something fun to look forward to on Wednesday and just something else to think about besides math, like, all the time. And, we made a pink t-shirt with my little Beck Check logo, not the podcast. It's a different logo. It's just the Beck Check. And then on the back, it says just not yet. So anyone out there, if you're interested in t-shirts, I have like 70 of them left. So if anyone's interested, just hit me up and I can get you a Beck Check t-shirt. So that's kind of part of that update from U of A teaching finalists, which was really cool. But also around the time of last semester, I am taking a new job, which was a really, really hard decision to make because I love being at Mountain View. I love my teammates, my colleagues, and just being part of the culture and the community. I've really found a home at Mountain View these past 3 years, and so I'm actually going to be moving on to Marana Vista Academy, a new personalized learning high school here in the Marana district. And I really wasn't thinking I was going to apply to it, but then it came down to it, and I realized I have an opportunity to help start a new school, help design a math program. And I just thought, oh, how cool would that be to design a math program from scratch, just using all the things that I just learned from my NAU experience and my master's. And I'm just really excited about math teaching. And I thought, man, like, why not try something different? So I'm going to be starting there in the fall, which is really hard to say goodbye to the current students that I have, but I just think it's what I'm supposed to do. So that's really exciting. We're in the midst of hiring different people for the different candidates. One thing for the different positions, and I'm really excited to do some cross-content collaboration. So I'll be planning with the science and the English and the social studies all at the same time, and we're going to have cross-content projects. So that's a really cool thing that's going to be happening in the fall, and I'm really excited to be working with the new principal at the school, Laura Goligoski. So it's going to be a really great experience. And actually, she and I were just interviewed on the news. I think that'll come out about 10 days from now, about the school. So I just feel like I got this award. I've been on the news. I'm going to be on the news for the other award. I'm just like, what is my life right now? It's like a movie. I'm just very thankful. I feel very blessed by God for just all these amazing things that have been going on in my life. And another update, I got the MEAD, the Math Education Appreciation Day, run by the CRR, the UACRR. It's a program from the University of Arizona to support the professional development of math teachers. And I won their Teacher of the Year award for an early career teacher. So I am just kind of stunned at all the amazing things that God has done this year. And I just feel very blessed and very thankful to be just teaching, because no teacher gets into it for the recognition, or we get into it for the pay, that's for sure. And we don't get into it for respect even. I think a lot of us just get into teaching because we want to teach, because we want to help students learn. Like, that's the number one thing that's important to me. And how can I make math class more enjoyable for students? So to get this recognition is strange. It's been a strange thing for me, because on the one hand, I want to recognize the gifts and talents and abilities that I do have, because I work really hard in my job, and excellence is a value of mine. I always want to put my very best into it, but also yet remaining humble and realize that I really didn't deserve any of this ultimately. So, I'm just kind of stunned and blown away, and it's just really cool that my students have supported me with that as well. So a couple different awards, and then some other things going on in my life. I'm going to go on a trip up to San Diego here next week for the during rodeo break. I'm going to go to the Noise conference, so I'm really excited for that, to share more stuff about the Quadris method. If anyone has listened to my podcast with the one and only James Tanton, he and I did a podcast where I asked him all about the Quadris method, which was really great. So that's like my classic presentation that I've been doing the past couple of years. How can we teach quadratics differently? How can we make it more engaging? How can we tell the true story of quadratics? And so I'm going to be at the Noise conference in San Diego presenting that presentation again, which I've given quite a few times now in different times and spaces. So super excited for that. I'm also going to be visiting during that same trip, the Friday before the conference. I'm going to be visiting High Tech High School, which, if those of you who don't know, it's a very similar model to what I think we're going to try to build at Marana Vista Academy. I think there's a lot of project-based learning. I think there's a lot of hands-on learning. It's something that I'm really excited to view, to see what it's like in action. So I'll probably be able to do another podcast, or if I meet anyone there, to interview them more, just all about their school. And so that's kind of all the updates for me. But also, I've taken on a student teacher this year, who's been really great to have around. I won't say where she's teaching next year yet until it's absolutely official, but I am just very excited for her in the direction in her young career. I definitely want to get her on the podcast at some point so you all can listen to her and her insights. We make a joke that she's Beck Jr., but she's going to be her own fantastic math teacher someday. And I've never actually had the opportunity to mentor a student teacher before. And that's been really fun because I know I learned so much from my mentors, Justin Powell, if you're listening to this, or Leo Villalobos, if you're listening to this, like those two men who I just greatly respect and look up to as some guys who really helped me early on in my math career. I'm still early on in this thing, but I mean, really early on. They really poured into me and showed me the way to go. And so it's really cool to be able to do the same thing for someone else. So if you're a teacher out there and you're excited about your job and you haven't had a chance to take on a student teacher, I recommend it. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And there's a lot of sense of, oh my gosh, like I'm giving over this thing that I made to someone else and have them try stuff, which can be scary. But really, I think sometimes the things that make us the most uncomfortable is what's going to be the most beneficial and help us grow. Like you go to the gym and it hurts to lift weights, but you know that it's worth it. So anyways, that's some updates from me in my life. It's been a roller coaster. This Saturday, I'm going to the U of A game against Houston, where I'll be honored as a finalist. And end of this month, I'll find out if I actually won the U of A teaching award. But really, I'm just excited for the game. Bear down, Arizona, go Cats. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about just a little bit is just to provide just some encouragement for any teachers out there that have been wanting to take a risk in their teaching, who have been wanting to do something new, who want to do something different but aren't sure if they're able to do something different, who aren't sure what the repercussions might be, for anyone who feels kind of like boxed in, anything like that, or just wanting to change it up. And I just want to provide some encouragement in that. Like, I am definitely taking a risk by going to Marana Vista Academy. This is a brand new school. We're not entirely sure what it's going to look like. We don't even have our full staff yet. We don't even know how many students we're going to have. We have a building that's not complete yet. Like, there's so many unknowns. Yet the thought of the potential of what it could be is so exciting. And I think that's why anyone wants to make a change in their life, no matter what it is, when it comes to math teaching, we realize, wow, I want to make a change because of the benefit, because of the excitement that it might give me, because of the additional opportunities that it might provide for students to learn something. And that's why we're in this business. We're in the people business to help students learn. And I just realized I'm taking this big risk at Marana Vista. And I just want to encourage any other teachers, if there's a lesson, if there's an idea, if there's a job position, if there's something that you've wanted to do differently in your practice, there's no time like the present. Like just earlier this week, I'll share a link to the activity that I did with my students if anyone's interested in looking at it. But it's with arithmetic and geometric sequences. Now, I tailored it. I always make stories about my life. Maybe I'm conceited in that way. It's just funny for me to tell stories about my life, and I weave them into math problems for students. And I told this story about I have this garden, and there's weeds growing in this garden, and they grow at an arithmetic sequence. And then I also have this weed killer that destroys the weeds at a geometric pattern. And so it's a really complicated problem where it's like 2 paragraphs of text that they have to try to decode and understand and figure out what the problem's even asking them. I mean, one of my students, as I gave them this problem, asked me, Mr. Beck, you've got addition here and you've got multiplication. Like, what do you want? And I realized that I've been giving them very narrow procedural questions for like a week, right? I mean, it's what we fall into as teachers, right? Okay, here's the standard. Student will be able to write an arithmetic or geometric sequence from using the explicit formula. Great, okay? And it feels like as teachers, we need to make sure they have a master of some of these basic skills, some of these procedural skills before we can do the heavy lifting of problem solving, which I think to an extent is true. Like, I do think that students need something to grab onto so that they can jump into the problem solving process. But at the same time, if we just only give them these problems where all they have to do is, okay, I'm just going to look and I'm going to find a pattern, I'm going to write the formula really quick, and then I'm done. Right? A problem that as soon as it clicks. Now, I'm not trying to make light of it, that it might take a long time for a student for this idea to click. It very well might take some time, even though for me and other teachers, we might perceive it as simple, but for students, it might not be, right? I don't want to make light of the potential difficulties that a student might have in writing the explicit formula for an arithmetic or geometric sequence. That might take time. But I've noticed is as soon as it clicks, it's like, boom, okay, initial value, I found the pattern, let me write it in the formula, let me substitute in a term number, and boom, I can predict and get everything that I want. As soon as it clicks, it's really a math problem that doesn't take long to solve. The longest part is going to be chucking it into a calculator if your numbers are weird. And so if we only give students these types of problems that don't take very long to solve, what is their perseverance going to be like? What is their grit going to be like when it comes to solving problems in their life? Right now, I understand that life problems are different than math problems. But there's a lot of similarities that we can still teach students: the value of hard work, the value of problem solving, the value of perseverance, the value of using multiple tools, the value of working in a team to solve a problem, the value of sustained, intentional, systemic thought on a problem. As I was going through this problem, there's like 10 things that I asked them to do, and realistically, I try to get them to get through 5 of them. I remember there was a student who asked to go to the bathroom after she had done some work, and she came back, and she went over to her group and was like, oh my gosh, we're on the same problem. And that just kind of, it made me recognize this issue that I've been giving them is like problems that take less than a minute to solve, move on, share the marker, you go to the next one. And don't get me wrong, thin slicing and sharing the marker and building thinking classrooms is great, but sometimes I feel like I get away from the thinking tasks. I get away from the richness in problem solving because I'm just trying to hit the standard, get you to understand it, and move on. And I don't always take the time to make sure there's sustained and deep thought. And it just dawned on me this week. So I just wanted to encourage anyone, if you're looking to do that in your classes, why not go for it? Why not give them a chance to solve a really difficult problem, whether you've got regular honors or whatever? I won't go off on that tangent. But if you're going to give a rigorous problem to honor students, and you also teach a regular section of that class, hot take, maybe it's not hot, give them the same problem. Give them the same problem. Give the students in a regular class the same opportunities to achieve high academic, rigorous standards as you would in the honors class. Now, there might be different scaffolds. I'm not going to say that, okay? But at least give them the opportunity to engage in high-level academic thought, because you might be surprised. In fact, you will be surprised. And in fact, I will say this. For different groups, I will say the class that was considered more regular sustained in thought for quite a bit longer than some of the other classes did. And I think that's because they're used to math being challenging. If I walk into a room of students who always understand the math problem right away, they're a group of students who can raise their hand really fast, but as soon as I start to challenge them and pressure them, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know math anymore. What's going on? I mean, to be honest, that was me in college. I was that student in high school who was flying through the honors classes and did so well, but when I finally got to like Calc 3, it hit me that I didn't have the patience to persevere and problem solve, because everything I understood just came to me naturally. I understood the quick problem, I could solve it, take a few steps, do my 50 problems at night, exaggeration, and then turn it in the next day and move on with my life. Like, I don't think when I was in high school, I really had the opportunity to sustain rich problem solving. I didn't have the opportunity to really engage in that. Now, I'm not trying to take away from the value of repeated practice. We do need procedural fluency, but not at the cost of conceptual understanding. And there might be certain tasks that you wait on. And of course, you don't just, I think it's very well documented in the Building Thinking Classrooms book. Like, if you just give students a problem out of nowhere, that's way harder than what they're used to. It's open-ended, lots of different ways to solve it. It's not going to go well. Like, the students might get frustrated. They might give up. You might not even have much that you can work with, right? You're just going to frustrate yourself and the students. So it has to be layered in with building a thinking classroom, with building a culture where it's okay to take risks, where it's okay to make mistakes, where it's okay to spend more than 5 minutes on a single problem, right? And so, like, those were the lessons that I was trying to teach the students. Yes, did I care that they solved the problem? Absolutely, right? And we discussed the rich mathematics of the task, and it's a task that, using the 5 practices, anticipate, monitor, select, sequence, connect. It was one of those kinds of tasks that you can still have rich mathematical discussions about, right? But I was also trying to make a point to them, a much broader point, and that is the perseverance of problem solving. I was trying to show them, hey guys, you just spent 30 minutes thinking about this one problem, and they were wiped out by the end of it, right? You know what it's like when you're wiped out at the end of a long workout, and you can barely even tie your shoes at the end. Like, that's what we got to do more often for students. Even if we get pushback, even if it feels uncomfortable because feel like I'm spending as much time teaching this textbook or curriculum or whatever, however we want to define those things. So, all of that to say, it's meant to be encouraging that what I saw with my students after building this culture of where it's okay to take risks, it's okay to work with each other, it's okay to not get the answer right away. It was just an incredibly rewarding and enriching experience for me. Now, some of the students, maybe they didn't perceive it that way. Some of them perceived it as, you know what, Mr. Beck, you didn't teach me today, and I'm mad. Right? Because I didn't show them how to do every single part of the problem explicitly, right? It was more done through guiding questions, more done through group work. And then consolidation, tying it all together at the end, was a little more explicit, right? But it was still building upon student understanding, student ideas, student-driven thought in the classroom. And so some students were like, so we might get that pushback when we want to try something new, but just because we get a little pushback when we try something new doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing to do. Anyways, I don't know why I got you so fired up about all that, but I think we have to take every opportunity that we can to push our students further than they think they could go. We have to give them opportunities for sustained thought about problems where they have to work together and they might not know the solution right away. We have to get students comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable, of not entirely knowing how to solve every single thing that comes across their way, because there will be a day where they get humbled, just as I was in college, and I much rather would have had that day happen to me in high school and taught these lessons earlier to help me better prepare for other things. And there's just so many life lessons that go along with that as well, perseverance, toughness, grit, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I will drop the link to the activity in the podcast description if you're interested in it. I just want to give us all some encouragement. Try something new. See what happens. If it doesn't work, let's tweak it and do something different, but all within the best interests of our students. There's such a richness to teaching math. There's such an excitement to teaching math when we give them worthwhile problems to solve. So let's do it. Anyways, that is a little bit about me. That's my life update, and then just an encouragement in problem solving. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Beck Check Podcast.